You're listening to RTI Audio, powered by Rocky Top Insider. This is Pancakes and Bacon with VFL, Kyler Kerbison, and Reed Bacon.
Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Pancakes and Bacon. I'm your host, as always, Kyler Kerbison, joined with Reed Bacon. We got a great one. A lot of stuff's been going on. I tell you what. So Vols got into the Citrus Bowl versus the second best team in the Big Ten. We'll just say that. So we're reacting to that, giving our honest feedback. We're also talking a little transfer portal. Our guys have already put their name into it. We've already offered guys from other places, so we're talking a little bit about that and maybe some disciplinary things that happened. And then we're talking about college football playoffs. It's on everyone's mind right now, the teams that got in and the teams that did not. And then we're going to give you a little bet lines too on those games, so you guys could follow along with us on that. But first, before we get into any of that, Reed, how we doing, bud?
What's up, big boy?
What's up?
Yeah, I thought we were done doing these podcasts for a couple weeks, and then on Sunday night, you're like, "Yeah, we'll record tomorrow." I'm like, "Record what? Like a song?"
No more games, but still news.
But I'm excited to talk. There's been some juicy stuff. First off, you just said that Iowa was the second best team. I get it. They made the Big Ten championship, but they're not better than Ohio State.
Obviously not.
They lost to Penn State 31-0. So just wanted to make sure people didn't freak out when you said that, like joking. I'm doing well. I have a funny story. A quick shout out to Troy. Troy was a big old boy, nice, tall.
How big a boy are you?
I'm talking Troy. He's probably like 6'4". Ish and not fat and very nice. But it was funny because I love Buffalo Wild Wings. I get it. I know everybody. There's better wings, and I know how bad their service is. It's a disaster. I couldn't tell you the last time I ate in one. But there's probably once every 4 to 5 months I'll order from the Turkey Creek.
Yeah, get some wings to go.
What's that?
Get some wings to go.
Right, and you never know. It's like a little mystery anytime you go to B-Dubs, and it's like it's gonna be like one of the best meals you've had in a long time, or it's the wings look like old and they're not tossed well and all this stuff. But anyways, a little preview. They were great, by the way. So I called some in on Friday night before I was going to Megan. So hit Turkey Creek and then jump over to Oak Ridge. So I was popping by to see her and her mom on Friday night at their house, and go in there, and my order's not ready yet. So I go into the bathroom, and I'm a courteous guy and, friendly guy. So I always try to hold the door if someone's coming in behind me or whatever. Well, I didn't see this individual. And then I heard someone grab the door after it closed, and I was like, "Oh, my bad." And they're like, "Oh yeah, all good." So then I go into the bathroom, do my business, and I'm washing hands, big hand washer here, very clean guy. And so I was happy to see that this
Weird he had to make that statement. It almost seems like he doesn't wash his hands.
No, I'm a freak about germs and washing hands. So I'm saying that, hoping that others will too. But so I was happy to see this gentleman also come in, because it does frustrate me with dudes, you nasty guys that'll go in there and go to the bathroom and not wash hands. So anyways, I'm friendly. I'll sit there and wash my hands. And I was going to look over to this gentleman and just be like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, how's your day?" It's just what I try to do. And as I was about to do that, he looked over at me and he goes, "Hey, what's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Reed." And he's like, "Oh yeah, like I thought that was you." He's like, "What's up, man? I love the pod." And I was like, "Oh, like awesome." So
fantastic.
Yeah. So
let me zip my pants up real quick.
Hey, pants were already up, and everything was back tucked inside. But anyways, I always appreciate that. And so Troy was great. We talked for a minute. And I was happy that when he looked over and asked my name and I told him, he wasn't pissed, because like I said, large, he tall, big, he probably still works out. He looks like overgrown like 3 or 4 from the basketball. Like he's a 3 or 4 in legit basketball. But yeah, but anyways, Troy was nice. He asked about you, and I said, yeah, unfortunately, he still lives in Nashville. I said, we swapped. If not, we would hang out 24/7, 365.
Exactly.
When Kyler's wife would allow me.
Yeah.
So that was the first story that I have.
Number two,
and this is not personal. Just like if we comment on people, it is not personal. It's never personal. But I just so happened to be walking up to the country club last week, and there's a lot of times I listen to podcasts. And I get on YouTube, and I'm about to go to the Chris Long Greenlight Pod to listen to their live show. It was not dropped yet. So I was like, okay, let me scroll through YouTube. Let me see what I find. Well, the YouTube algorithm gave me a Vol podcast called Fall Bros. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to check this out. Like I'm going to listen to it for a minute. Let's see what else is out there. And I don't really listen to any other Vol stuff besides the radio. Like I'll listen to the radio, but
yeah,
I'm choosing to listen to NFL stuff, or like I have my pods that I'm going to listen to. But I was like, let me click on this. Let me see what's up. And legitimately within 2 minutes, I get frustrated, and I get really worked up. And like I said, it's nothing personal, but I got very fired up, and I called Kyler, and I'm like, listen to this. And so I reached out to Vol Bros, and whoever runs their account was very nice, very friendly, because it could have gone bad. And I was very polite about it, but like I appreciate them being nice. And I didn't know it, but they followed us on our account. That's a side note, by the way. I'm not great about responding. We both run the account. He can sign in, I can sign in. I'm not great about getting back to people on Twitter sometimes, or even I've been slipping on replying to comments. So I'm gonna do it after this. I'm gonna respond to some people. But anyways, so shot that out. They responded. I didn't know they followed us, but that was nice of them to follow us and said that they had listened to us. I said, I appreciate it. But there was a comment. Well, there was 2 comments made. So, or one was written and one was said, but one was talking about how Reed Carringer was one of the founders of Rocky Top, which is not true. And so I said, hey, that's, John and Bob, and most people in Knoxville know that. I said Reed was just one of their first hires, and I don't know the Reed Carringer guy. I don't know, but I just don't. We're part of the Rocky Top Insider team. I love Bob and John, so I was like, hey, just don't want there to be false information. Like he was all he was one of their first hires. He was not a part of he's not a founder or whatever. So the next thing I said was, this is what really got me frustrated, is there was a comment made that why did Tennessee and why did Coach Heupel decide to open up the offense in the last game of the year against Vandy? And I'm like, And they go, we got the tight ends involved. We like to see the pop pass, which we also love the pop pass. And then they said, well, they run that wheel route to Castle, and it's a touchdown. It's like, why is that the first time we're seeing this? And I'm just like, and it's a frustration. Because
I'm sure we have fans right now that are like, I remember another play with Castle on the wheel route. Like, what are you talking about? It's like this happens all year.
And you and I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So like I've said stuff on here that's either wrong, incorrect, that I had an opinion and I was wrong. The fact that I thought we were going to beat Florida and I thought we were going to do it handily. Well, that wasn't the case. So I've been wrong plenty. I've probably said information that's wrong too. And so I'm not saying, but when I see something like that and I hear those things put out, whether they have 5 people that listens or whether they have 5,000 people that listen, that is stuff that gets put in the air. And like I told you, whether it's a podcast, a tweet, someone calling into the radio show, a radio host, and they are saying stuff that's factually not correct. And that's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Because it sets this precedent that like, well, what the fuck is Josh Heupel doing? What the fuck is Coach Halsley doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we saving this stuff? And it's like, if you really think about it, honestly, we're all intelligent people out there. Most people are intelligent. You can use your brain. You really think Coach Heupel is going to save something for Vandy? No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't get to the position that he's in with his football knowledge and to be the head coach UCF and then at the University of Tennessee because of that. You think he wins the games he went? No. And so they're talking about, he had the 2 slants in and the wheel routes. And why is that one of the first times we're seeing it? I'm like,
because you're not watching film.
That is literally the 3rd touchdown that we have scored on the same type of concept. I'm not going to say the exact same play, but the same type of concept. Against Alabama in one of the biggest plays of the year, right before half, and we need a tutty. And he runs the outside guy. Now, remember, we talked about it on the podcast. I said they bunched him in, kind of bring Chaz or whoever it was across to kind of get some of that to let Callie go right behind him. We scored. Then there was the one against South Carolina where it literally was Jacob in here, and he ran a wheel route, and it was a really good throw and catch. So it's like, it was just a pet peeve of mine, and that's why I had to reach out to them. But it was also just a good example of I'm not saying that everything we say is right, but just be careful with what you hear because it can really put out some stuff.
It can put out a narrative about somebody that you don't want to start. You don't want people that are maybe more casual fans or people that maybe really do love Tennessee but don't quite understand football that much. And they go, well, I heard he was saving stuff for Vandy, or I heard he wasn't using all of his plays earlier in the season. And then, if I hear that and I believe that person, I go, well, that coach is an idiot. And then you go down this whole road of, okay, well, then he shouldn't be the coach anymore because he's an idiot. But it's like, that's not it. And like you said, we're not trying to bash anybody. We're not trying to say, just when we can, we want to try and be as factual as we possibly can to our fans and let them know, all the people that listen, this is what's going on the field. This is what's happening as much as we can tell. So it's just, you don't want to start a negative narrative that's not even true.
And it has nothing to do with them. It literally just happened to be, I saw the algorithm, I clicked it. It's literally within the first 2 minutes. And I heard that and I cut it off. I was like, well, I can't listen to this anymore. And then I immediately called you and was just like, dude, I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed and frustrated. This stuff is out there. Like I said, we have probably made multiple mistakes doing it for the 3 years that we've been doing it. And there's probably other pods out there that covers Tennessee or other stuff that's made great points that I just haven't heard. And then there's some that have probably misspoke on some stuff. But it's one thing that I do, I work remote, but then I'm out visiting customers and stuff. So sometimes I'll catch the radio. But the one time I really do catch it the most is on Sundays when I'm driving to Mass. And that's what I've talked about, where they have Tim Irwin and Jimmy Himes on there. And it's one thing that I like that Jimmy Himes does is if someone calls in and they want to be that fan and be, oh, the defense has sucked and this and that, we can't win on the road. And Jimmy's like, hey, they played really well this game, and this game. We went on the road and we beat this team, and this team. It's like, thank you. Let's pipe it down a little bit. And so, anyways, I just
pipe it down and let's zoom out.
Yeah.
Let's look at this holistically here.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways,
let's get into the pod.
What do you think about Citrus Bowl, man? What do you think?
Dude, I honestly really like it. I like the fact that we're in this game. I like it more than the Gator Bowl, just visually, I guess, for optics. I like it more than the Gator Bowl. I think they put us in there because we have the best fans in the country and we travel really well.
Yeah.
And I told you this whenever we first figured it out, is I didn't want to go to the Gator Bowl because that's where I went to my first bowl game when we were 6-6. And it's this team is better than that team.
Is that Northwestern or Iowa?
That was Iowa.
Yeah.
At the Gator Bowl.
Okay.
So I was like, we deserve a better one than that. If I can get in there in 6-6, this 8-4 team should be able to get a better bowl.
Right.
And then the matchup versus Iowa is just, it's one of those games that you can easily win But one of those games that people can really look at you differently if you're not on your P's and Q's, like the Iowa defense and how good they've been this year, makes me like, listen, our offense has been up and down and up and down and up and down. So it just, that side of it worries me. But I will say this. I absolutely loved playing Big Ten teams when I played. Those hefty 275-pound defensive ends were a breath of fresh air for me. I hated going against the 240 Dante Fowlers running 4.5s, 4.4s. They were nightmares to try and block. Give me a white, weightlifting, 280-pound D end all day long. All day long.
Hey, why do you have to say white? Why do you have to do that to me?
Because with all of my experience, with 17 years, with 17 years worth of football experience playing the sport, I can tell you right now, every black guy that I've ever played with is more athletic than I am. And that's just how it is. Like, that is just how it is. Props to them. They are more athletic than me. That's just how it is. But
so you were a lunch pail guy?
Oh yeah, dude, big time.
Very
lunch pail, grit, grind. You just taking notes, real technical, real smart. Like that was it. Listen, I got a little bit of athleticism in me, obviously, to be able to play. But man, I survived based off of like hips have to stay square, your feet have to be this far apart, your hand has to be at this placement. Make sure that your eyes stay at this spot. Like that was how I played the game. There. How many times we've used like the word freak on here to describe like James Pierce? Like, ain't nobody used that on Kyler Kerberson. Like this guy,
I have, because you are a freak athlete to the normal person.
For a normal person, I guess. I'm not a NARP. We'll say that.
You're not a what?
A NARP, a non-athletic regular person.
Is that what you cool Tennessee players call people?
Yep.
I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, surrounded by a bunch of NARPs over here.
I'm going to start using that.
It's great. It's a great one.
I'm going to start using that to make myself feel better. Like, bro, I'm over here playing hoops. All these guys are a bunch of NARPs. And they're like,
NARPs, dude.
You just called me a narc, like a cop? I'm like, no, you're a non-athletic regular person.
It's just it. Or a jag. You're just a guy.
Just a guy, yeah. They're like, oh, so you are an athletic person. Like, you must play sports. It's like, no, I'm actually in human resourcing, but same thing.
I got a podcast. What about that?
All right.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah. Immediately upon seeing it, I was fired up. Let's go. I couldn't have asked for anybody else.
Yeah. Because
I look at this as a get right game, a very much, you know me, and I sold this to you. If I'm a 6-6, 7-6, and my coach has been here 4 or 5 years, I don't really give a dang about the bowl game. Like, I truly don't. Like, I want us to win, but I'm not gonna be super invested, because my thing's like, all right, you've been here 4 years, you've been here 5 years, we've had some good, we've had some bad. Like, I need you to get shit ready and corrected for next year. Like, this game isn't gonna make me in on you or out on you.
Yeah.
So, like last year, I really wanted to win that bowl game at 7 games, because that was Heupel's, or 2 years ago, it was Heupel's first year. I really won that trajectory. Last year, I was like, hey, special season. You got a chance to beat Clemson. Let's go wear them out.
6 bowl.
Right. And so I'm like, so this year I won it because, hey, great. New Year's Day, 1 o'clock, ABC. Is it ABC? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, perfect time for great exposure for us to go out there, look high flying, pound it at them, play some good defense, and win a game. Mm-hmm. And that was all my initial thoughts. And some of those thoughts are still real. But then I said, hey, Reed, this isn't the team 2 years ago. This isn't the team last year. You can't go into every game like, hey, I know my team's going to fight for 60 minutes and we're going to score some damn points. I can't. That feeling got me smoked in the Florida game. It got me
Smoked
not
versus
feeling.
Missouri.
It got me not feeling. I mean, UTSA was a little bit better. South Carolina was like, okay, I'm good with this. Texas A&M back to like, hey, we really got to find a way to win this in all three phases. And so there was just these ups and downs. And you're right. And then Missouri happens, Georgia happens. And offensively, things are just non-existent. And I am not used to that after the first 2 years of Heupel. And I'm assuming most of the other people are not like that at all. So then I said, well, hold on, Reed. There's a world that we should go up and like their defense is good and we can't just score on them. And when my first thought was like, oh, our SEC team speed, we're going to make them look like fools like you all did. Your team speed against Iowa and Northwestern was a joke. I mean, it was a joke. They were like stuck in mud trying to chase.
Exactly.
So anyway, so then I said, but overall, I want to see how our offense does against a good defense. I'm not going to say elite or anything like that. I mean, they gave up 31 points against Penn State. I don't think Penn State's that good. I don't think Penn State's bad. I think they're a little overrated. But, I mean, and then they gave up let's see, there's another one on here I wanted to shout out. I know they gave up 26 against Michigan, but Michigan's going to pound it, stuff like that. So it was really the Penn State game, and I could have sworn there was one more on here that was like, oh, this is what they scored on them. So anyways, it's a fine defense. I mean, it's a good defense. It's not elite. It's not elite in my opinion. You can say the numbers might look elite, but
I got some stats too about like the Big Ten West.
Yeah,
like,
it's
and who they're playing against. Like every other team on the Big Ten West is between 7-5 and 4-8.
Yeah.
And they, outside of Iowa, all the other West teams are 1-6 in non-conference games versus other Power 5 teams, and 6-12 versus the Big East. So it's like they are bad. Like the West is bad.
Yeah.
On that side.
The other thing too, though, about Iowa, and I haven't looked at what they have this year, but Iowa is sneaky about putting people in the pros. So they can have some good players, whether it's D-line, offensive line, tight end.
Tight end's a big one.
And then you got some corners too, or secondary players like Amani Hooker for the Titans, who I think is a pretty good pro, probably above average pro. Like he's an Iowa guy. Then George Kittle, you got T.J. Hawkinson. You got a couple of their offensive linemen, a couple of their defensive linemen that are good. I'm talking like first round picks or guys that are doing it at a high level in the league. So they're going to have a couple guys on there that they can work with. So then what I came to is like, this is great. And now personally, you and I both, and probably all of Vol Nation basically wants Nico to come out. And I think this would be a perfect first start for Nico. One reason, because he's going to have 30 days to prepare. 30 days to work with his receivers, work with the offensive line, game plan. I don't know how much these guys are worried about transfer portal, recruiting, all this stuff. I don't know how much they're going to game plan actually for Iowa. I'm assuming they'll do at least a normal week of game plan, but I don't know how much. You would know better than I would.
Yeah, Iowa's defense is good. It's not crazy. It's not like this weird defense that you got to, watch film on. It's a 4-3 defense, and they play really gap sound. It's like,
I saw a lot of zone too. I saw a lot of rushing 4, playing zone, maybe bring an extra backer here and there, but it wasn't
exactly that. Is like there's not like, oh, I wonder how we're going to block this.
Multiple fronts.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's going to be 4 down front. They might bring a sandbacker off the edge and, just play it.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So my thing is like, I think it's a perfect spot for him to come out and to really see what he's made of. And then that also gives him film going into the next year, which is a good learning lesson and things like that. Unfortunately, I've said it this whole time. I don't know why, but I just think Joe plays. I think Joe's like,
I think so too.
I'm going to start what I finished. And like, I'm here with my boys and I'm not going to leave him hanging. Honestly, like he'll probably put out some cheesy ass thing that says like, I'm going to play and finish what I started. And it's like, well, you're probably going to finish what you started because you need more tape, as much good tape as you can get out there for the NFL. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. I can still hopeful. It's a Christmas wish for me that he doesn't play.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays, then it's up to which Joe do we get. And that's going to be how well we do. But I feel like if Nico comes out and plays and we can run the ball on him, then that's great. Now, defensively, this is a get-right game for our defense. If our defense comes out of this game and Iowa scores on us, unfortunately, pretty consistently, I'm going to be pretty bummed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pretty bummed that I'm
not pretty upset.
And I'm not going to feel great going into next year. But this should be a get-right game for linebackers because it shouldn't be a ton of speed going east and west. It's going to be they're going to hand it off. They're going to do a little play action. It's going to be some simple stuff. So this is more of a – instead of checking your eyes and checking your feet, this is more of just a check your manhood, eat the gap up. But there's unfortunately some times that we saw where guys were not filling gaps quickly enough and
weren't reacting fast enough.
And plays that should have been 2 or 3 yards or 5 or 6 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be a really good get-right game for the defense, and maybe it's an opportunity to see some younger guys, whether it's in the secondary or I don't really say younger guys at linebacker because we've already.
I think it's secondary, and we'll get into it with the transfer portal stuff. But some guys are transferring, so it's like, hey, other guys, you got to step up. We don't have the depth.
And I think the D-line, I think they're going to try to show some young bucks at D-line. Like you'll see Caleb Herring. I think you'll see a good amount of probably some Tyree West, Dalvin Hobbs. I don't know. I want to see some of that. But this has potential to be a really, really good start for 2024 in this program. Yeah. And if you could go out and be the Tennessee that we've seen more often than not in his first 3 years, and you can go up and light the scoreboard up and fly around on defense, and really the only thing that we haven't done well this year on defense is get some takeaways, but it could really, really help this game if we get 1 or 2 takeaways to kickstart the offense.
And I mean, you watch this Iowa offense. It's bad, man. It's bad. They are last in the FBS, 133 of 133. They average 18 points and 246 yards a game.
Yeah, but the 18 points is because they put up like 41 against like Central Michigan.
I know. You take that. They have 2 shutouts on their season. Like, that's crazy to have a 10-win team with 2 shutouts. What's even crazier, since 2000, they are the only team to be the worst offensive team in the country and win 10 games. No team has ever done it. The best record since 2000 before this year was 4-8 for the worst offensive team in the country. And since 2000, the average number of victories for the worst offensive team in the country is 1.4. And they have 10.
Well, I don't like. Why though? You already said why. Because
it is their conference. It's their conference. They're bad. The Big Ten West has lost 9 games in a row in the Big Ten championship to the East. They're not good. So that plays into it. Their defensive coordinator just won the Broyles Award. And yes, you should give it to him because of how bad that offense was. That they were able to win 10 games is incredible. It is defense. It is special teams, which I really like. Like you tell me, hey, you're going to play a team that's really bad on offense, has a good defense, and plays good special teams. I'm going to go, great. because I like our defense. Our offense is explosive, and I trust our special teams coordinator to get us right. So,
yeah,
I'm excited all around. Let's jump into the transfer portal. So, we got a few guys entering. We got a few guys offered from other teams, and a few guys entering other teams that might be a little interesting, like old Walter, a couple states over. What I do want to shout out, though, before we start talking again, the video that John Campbell put out of coming back is absolutely incredible.
It's awesome.
On Twitter. Oh, my God. I died laughing.
Well, I think the video itself, Drewski
is hilarious.
I don't necessarily follow him or seek him out, but when I see his stuff, I laugh hard every time. And I'll be honest with you, Kyler, when someone sent me that, and when I first clicked to pull it, I thought it was about to be bad. I thought it was bad exposure. John Campbell being like, "I'm free, I'm out of Tennessee," and I was gonna be like, "No, like." Yeah. Whether it's true or not, like that's not great look. Like, hey, I'm free. I'm out of this jail of Tennessee. And then I see Heupel, and then how he has Nico. I was like, wow, awesome.
Yeah, incredible.
Super funny. I was out today making some stops, and Josh Ward said that this is John Campbell's 7th year.
Really?
I thought it was his 6th.
I didn't realize it was his 7th. Did he got a medical redshirt too?
I don't know. But Josh said 7, and then he said, Keenan could come back, and it would be his 7th. So
that's crazy.
But the thing is I think it's smart for John to come back because I think he could have some good tape. I mean, dude, if you're that much older, we've talked about this. If you're coming back at, let's see, if he entered at 18, so 18, 19, 20. I mean, if he's coming back at 23, 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
That is, and we forget this. We truly forget this. We know that these are college kids, but college football is such a big just ordeal. And I even have to remind myself, like, these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, Reed, these are still young dudes. And then you'll see some of them on the sideline, and you're like, wow, I'm getting old. These guys – because we're still younger. So I remember when the college guys seemed like they were like 45-year-old, just grown men. It's like, well, no, it's because I'm like in 8th grade.
Yeah.
But like these are still younger dudes. So that extra years of like we've talked about is a big deal. So can you imagine having a left tackle? But then if Keenan comes back, I mean, he should be wrecking people.
He should be.
So anyways. We told you guys Wesley and Brandon. I mean, not Wesley. That Warren Burrell and Brandon Turnage were most likely gone. So we've seen that. I think the biggest one that's worried people. Well, people are upset about Jack Luttrell.
I think the big guy up front too.
Well, hold on. Let me get there. So with Jack, I thought his film was good. I thought his film was darn good in high school. He's an absolute football player. Yeah. Sometimes when you come to Tennessee, as you call them tweeners, when I hear tweener, I think of not big enough or too small. Like you say tweeners and like they're good at multiple positions, but you might not be great at one. And so when I watched him in practice, granted, one practice, and he's a freshman. So it really shouldn't even matter what's said, but like he didn't stand out in practice.
Yeah.
One practice and he's young. So it means the guy could go on and play very well, but like I'm not surprised about it because he probably sees what's in front of him with guys that are younger too. But
Ricky,
I mean, he's a safety, so more like John Slaughter, Turrentine. I don't, Farouk, who's coming in this year and stuff like that. But that one's, we'll see where he goes. I'm not necessarily worried. But then Addison Nichols and people were like, oh gosh, he's leaving. This stinks. And then I hated the tweet that was like, this shows we can't develop a high 4-star. It's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. First off, you don't know. We have no idea how much better he got from when he showed up to when he's now that he's leaving.
That's
and
right.
The guy's still young. So there's no way to know how much we developed him or how much he is going to be when he's older, when he's a junior or a senior, redshirt, junior, redshirt, senior. So just stupid. It was just stupid.
Yeah, it's also so when I heard the news, I was disappointed because I truly obviously it's offensive lineman. I think it's the most important position. I want depth on the offensive line. It sucks that he would be entering the transfer portal. That doesn't mean he's leaving, though. He could come back. I have no idea. Where my mind went was, why would a person who could be up to start next year in a competition think, well, I'm just going to leave and go somewhere else? It makes me feel like he knows there's a writing on the wall, kind of the thing you said with Jack, that he's not going to start. And the only thing that makes sense in my head, if that were to be the case, is Spraggins and Carrick are both coming back. I don't know that for sure, but if I'm Addison Nichols, I'm going in my third year, and the transfer portal is the thing, and I know that I'm going to sit behind both of those guys and Cooper for another year and have 3 years of eligibility, leave and not get to play at all, yeah, I might think about transferring. If I'm up to play when it comes next fall, then I'm not going to. I'll have 3 years of eligibility playing at the place that I chose. That's good for me. So it makes me lean that way, that maybe we're just getting those guys back. And to your point about developing a 4-star, he can be severe. He can be amazing right now and very developed right now. But is he going to beat out a 5th-year senior? That guy was also developed too. Like, he's not going to beat out Spraggs, and he's not going to beat out Cooper. So there's one other position, and he wasn't able to beat out Carrick. And Ollie, he wasn't able to beat out either. Ollie's a 5th-year senior. I mean, it wasn't until the last 2 games that there was an opportunity for him to play. And, hey, you got your opportunity versus Vandy. You know what I mean? What did you do with that? I want everybody to go back and watch Addison Nichols versus Vandy. And I want you to tell me, hey, yeah, this guy is better than the starting 3 that we had at the beginning of the season. If you can tell me that, then you can be upset that he's leaving. But if he's not, like, it's like, guys, I don't know what you want me to do. To the players, like, as a coach, I don't know what you want me to do. He is practicing better than you. He knows the players. He knows the plays better than you. He understands the offense better than you. He's getting on the field. You're not.
Yeah.
I hate it when guys are like, oh, they don't like me. That's it. You know, they like that other guy. That's why I'm not getting on the field. It's like, no, it's because the wide receiver just ran past your ass. He just made you fall on a dig. Like, no, because you just got worked in one-on-one pass rush. That is why. It's not feelings. It's not emotions. These coaches will lose their livelihood if they put bad product out on the field. They're not trying to get fired, okay? They're trying to support their families. That's number one. Your feelings and who is the NIL we spent the most money on doesn't matter to them. They will still get fired. Like, at the end of the day, they are replaceable. So they're trying to keep their jobs. They're trying to succeed. They're not trying to fail. So
yeah, it was one of the true things, or one of the most true things I heard, and I really didn't understand it at first. And then, as you know, then I thought about it. But coaches play who they can trust. You can have, me, and you can have someone else who's faster, who can jump higher, who's stronger, whatever, at whatever position you want. But if the coach does not trust them to be in the right position, to run the play correctly, that guy is never going to see the field.
never.
And so that's what I always remember, like, somebody, like the coach, like, because we get caught up as younger, like, oh, I'm better than him. Like, oh, I'm better than him. Or he's not, he's not better than me. Like, what is, like, you know what I mean? Like,
There's plenty of guys that I played with that ended up transferring, and fans were always like, oh, man, like, why is he that is the sole reason why they were transferring, because they weren't going to play because the coaches didn't trust them, and that has nothing to do with how the coaches feel about them personally. That is all product based.
And it doesn't matter that you're 6'4", 205 and running 4.4. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 6'6", 318 and got feet like a dancing bear. Like, it just, none of that matters. I always tell the story. When I was at Memphis, and one of the recruits they brought in was this guy from Louisiana, and he was a corner. He's probably like a 2 or 3 star guy. I mean, pretty good get for Memphis, but he won the state championship for the state of Louisiana 100-meter dash. One of the fastest people I've ever seen. And I'm talking not a bad size at all for a corner. He was probably 6 foot. Yeah, he's probably 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot. Maybe looked a little bit taller than he was because he's pretty lean and just, looked like he was chiseled out of some stone.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, it was unbelievable how every time we did one-on-ones or something, he was getting beat deep by someone who was substantially slower. And I remember my safeties coach was our defense coordinator, and I remember him being like, how is this possible? Like, and he wasn't being mean. He was just like, you're the fastest guy on the team probably, if not the second fastest. Like, I don't – and he was like teaching me. He's like, where are your eyes? Where are your steps? Like, what are you – stop thinking. And it was crazy to see. Now, he actually ended up putting it together. He ended up transferring. He went back home and played for Tulane, and he actually got drafted. I don't think he really made it in the NFL, maybe longer than a year or two. But, I mean, just so physically gifted. But, if your eyes are not in the right spot or you're just not – whatever the reason is, like, they're not going to play. So, anyways, back to transfer portal. It's funny times because there's people leaving. And, and then we're offering the offensive lineman from Texas A&M. We've met with the tight end and offered some tight ends. And then I didn't know this, but Max Anderson, who we both really, really like as a product and as a recruit, and I had no idea he had an older brother, but he said something about he quote tweeted something about his brother. And I was like, oh, that would be pretty cool. Like, I don't know how good the guy is, but I'm sure if he played at Oklahoma, like, he's coming from a good program. And that's one other thing, too, that we have to be careful about this, because in the transfer portal, there's 2 things. There is either someone that is an absolute dog.
Yep.
And they play at a Washington State, and Washington State cannot pay the quarterback what he can make at another school. Mm-hmm. Whether he wants to go and win or not and have the chance to compete for a championship, if it's all dollars and cents, they can't pay it. But if he does care about dollars and cents and want to win, they can't compete with other big-time schools. So you either have that and another dog who's at a lower level, like a Jared Verse, who's playing at freaking Albany, and they're like, hey, we're going to pay you a ton of money to come play here at Florida State or wherever else.
Or that tight end from UConn.
Right. Like, you have those guys, or you have guys who look better on paper on a tweet. And I was talking with a buddy today. He lives up in Ohio, and you see all this stuff about all these Ohio State players leaving. I'm like, bro, are these guys any good? And he's like, they're all reserves. Like, he's like, they didn't really play. He's like, and I said, that's what I wanted to know, because when you're not a fan of that team and you're not super locked in, and someone puts out the tweet that says, oh, Kyler Kerberson's entering the transfer portal. He was a former 4-star and a top 150 player in 2019. It's like, oh, whoa. Like, they did they did that to us with Brandon Turnage. They put Brandon out there like 4-star, went to Alabama first, top 150 recruit. And it's like other fan bases are like, Arkansas is like, oh, wait, really? Seriously? It's like, yeah, he didn't.
He's from Alabama.
Yeah, like he didn't play here for us, and so that's what you have to be careful of is those. So it's like you can get excited about the ones that are legit dogs, like are starters, and then there's the other ones that they're leaving, and you don't really know, and not to say that those guys can't be good, but just be careful with how some of that's portrayed.
Yeah, exactly. Let the coaches watch the film and then see if they actually want to bring the guy in. Let's not, overreact to anything. But
I will say this too. I will say this. You brought up Walter Nolan. From what I watched him play once.
Yeah.
Played us, and then maybe I watched a little bit of one of their other games because I had some money on it, but I would just score checking and watch a little bit. I thought Walter played pretty well. Like I would gladly take him back because if he's at least at the worst. At the worst, going to be a rotational production.
For sure. Yeah, dude. Take him back immediately. Like,
yeah.
It's talking about depth on the defensive line, like as many guys as we can get.
Yeah.
And I could see Walter growing into this just molly-whopping dudes and just being a starter. I mean, he's got the size. He's got the athleticism. Like, there's a reason he was a 5-star. So I'm with it.
And the thing is, like, for the guy from Texas A&M that the interior offensive lineman we offered, if he commits, then I'll probably go watch Tennessee game again and just be like, all right, let me watch this guy. Like, let's see how he did against Big O or Amari Thomas or whoever else. And that's only one game. That's only one game, so it's not a huge sample size. I'm not going back and watching every snap he took, but that's kind of more of where I'll be. And then we'll talk about this on the end of the year podcast about what we want to see them go after, but just a little bit of a foreshadowing. I want some more team speed at the linebacker position and probably even the secondary position. Anyways, playoffs.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into these playoffs. So the big news out of it, Alabama gets into that 4 spot over Florida State. There is the argument for Alabama that, they had the number 5 toughest schedule. They beat the number 1 team. They've gone on this winning streak, all of those things. And I understand what people are trying to say. But Florida State won all of their games. They won the ACC championship. I know that they are not as good of a team as Alabama. I know that. I also know that Texas and Washington and most likely Michigan are not as good of a team as Georgia is. So what are we doing? If we are just putting in who we think is the best team, then why is Georgia not in the playoff? Because every single one of those committee members who voted on this, almost every fan, Vegas over there setting lines would pick Georgia over Washington, Texas, and Michigan right now.
Can I jump in here real quick?
I mean, we'll go back and forth, but I am on the side of Florida State getting what they deserve, because when you look at, hey, Alabama, why didn't you get in, right? If they weren't to get in, you lost. You lost a game. There's your reason right there. Here you go. Here's your reason. You lost the game. Florida State, why didn't you get in? One guy on our team broke his leg. What? Yeah, one guy. He broke his leg. So, wait, did you lose? No, we won all of our games. Wait, like you even won your conference? Yeah, we won our conference. Versus a ranked opponent, you won your conference. Yeah, we did. So, because one guy broke his leg, you're not getting a chance in the playoff. Pretty much. That's asinine. That is stupid. That's dumb. I hate it. I would be furious if it was Tennessee, and everyone else would be too. Everyone else would be too. If I was Alabama in this situation and I got over an undefeated Florida State team, I'd be very excited for myself. But I'd understand it's fucked up, real fucked up. And if they ended up putting Florida State ahead of a Tennessee team that was 11-1 and won the SEC championship, I would go, we did lose. We did lose to Alabama earlier in the year. Florida State didn't. So I get it.
So this is a thing, a little example I have here. And I had, like in a friend group growing up, we kind of had the thing of when someone says, hey, he's a really good athlete. And when you say he's a really good athlete, there's one definition of that individual guy or girl is just whatever they're playing, football, basketball, tennis, soccer, golf, baseball, softball, pickleball, whatever. They can just pick it up and be pretty darn good at it. They're an athlete. Then you have your other definition where it's like he's athletic as crap. He can jump high, run fast, quick in and out, just springy, freaky athlete. So we would definition like, hey, which one are we talking about? And then you got your super freak athletes that's like he can do both. He's pretty good at everything. She's pretty good at everything, but they can also, spring like crazy. So then it's like for the college football play, it's like, well, who's more deserving or who's the best? Who, that whole thing. But when you look at the committee, Bailey sent it to me, and it really shows their 5 criteria. And one of their criteria says that if a team loses an important player that affects who they are, then that team is not necessarily the same or whatever. So I give the committee credit that they didn't just pull something out of their butt. And they did have, like, on their website or their Twitter or wherever he got it, their official, like, these are the criteria that we look at. So I'll give them credit. That's like, they didn't pull this out. This is a criteria. Florida State's not as good without Jordan Travis. That doesn't mean that I don't think – I think it's wrong that they left Florida State out. Florida State, I think 100 out of 100 people are going to say, if Bama and Florida State played and they don't have Jordan Travis, I think every one of those 100 people are going to be like, yeah, Bama probably wins, and there's a chance it could get ugly. But you never know because you have to play the games. And to come back against –
That's exactly why Georgia was favored by double digits. It's exactly why Oregon was favored by 9 versus Washington, and they lost. You have to play the game.
Well, Georgia's favored by double digits now against Florida State. They were not favored against double digits against Alabama.
How much were they favored by?
5.
Okay.
I would know. I took Alabama. My best. I have not had a great betting year. Hasn't been terrible, but my best games were Washington. I took Washington against Oregon. That one where I really didn't understand. I didn't understand it being 9 at all, but I had.
It's just Washington hadn't beaten the crap out of the teams they were supposed to, and Oregon was. But they were both playing okay teams towards the end.
Do we forget though that they played earlier in the year and it was a close game?
No, I know. Well, that's where it's at. Is hey, this game is a coin flip. It was a close game at the beginning of the year. Oregon easily could have won versus Washington, and then you watch their last 4 games leading up to it. It's like Oregon's blowing these teams out. Washington isn't. They look like they've lost a step. That's where it all came from. But that's
fine. And that's fine. I still really put in head to head. And so, anyways, I took them plus the points and money line. But then, I think it's a great the point that you made earlier. Like, hey, if it's the 4 best teams, then Georgia should maybe be in there. And I would say, hey, big boy, I don't know about that because you can't say they would be favored because of what we just said. Oregon was 9-point favorites, and they lost. So just because you can say Georgia should be in because Vegas would put them 10 points, like, I don't care. Like, I'll give Georgia credit. They basically handled everyone really easily and really well. I think the SEC East was down. They didn't have to play LSU. They didn't have to play Bama. Their West opponent was Ole Miss, and they blasted them. But truly, their first meaningful game of the year, they lost. So it's like, I don't think Georgia's just like, oh, well, they lost Alabama. They're still probably a top 4 team. I don't. Years past, I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you. This year, I don't know that. Vegas is going to favor them. And if I really had to bet, then yeah, I would probably pick them to beat Michigan or to beat Washington because of the SEC talent, but it's not as a foregone conclusion that it maybe would have been in the past for me, at least.
Yeah, which I totally agree with you, and I think that's why Alabama doesn't deserve to be number 4. That's the exact reason why I think they should be 5. Florida State should be 4 because you can't guarantee. You just like I know that Alabama lost. It's also crazy that like Florida State was ranked number 4 last week, and Texas was 7, and Alabama was 8, and both of them jumped Florida State. Like maybe even like Texas, they beat Oklahoma State by a good margin. Florida State beat Louisville by not a lot, but just like it's like they got tagged together because they played each other. So it's like they almost had to move both of them because it's like if you're just looking on the surface, it's like there are two teams ahead of an undefeated team. It's not just one, it's two. Like that is not good. It's not just Alabama. There are two one-loss teams ahead of them. That's crazy.
Yeah. I was begging for Auburn to somehow. I was like, no way Auburn beats Alabama. And then you're checking,
dude.
Then you're checking the score, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then I'm turning it on. I'm watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to win this game. And then that happens because what I wanted so badly was Auburn to win that game, all the Alabama fans to be all upset and crying tears, and then they go and beat Georgia, and then I don't have to worry about Georgia or Alabama winning national championship.
Exactly.
And then I chose to root for Alabama because I bet on them and I thought they were going to win. And the thing is, if Nick Saban wins another one, I don't care because he's the GOAT. And so I can say he's the GOAT. Now I care because I don't want Alabama fans to get another championship. But I sure as hell did not want Georgia to get a three-peat and be able to say all that nonsense. And it's kind of funny that Georgia thought that they were Bama, and it's like, yeah, you guys won back-to-back. That's very impressive. But you've beaten Alabama one time since 2008. Like,
that's tough.
Nick Saban's still Nick Saban, you know?
So. Yeah, he's got quite a few more. So,
yeah, exactly.
And then last thing, you mentioned a little bit with some of the lines. We got double digits. So it's still like what, 14 for the Florida State Georgia?
It opened up at 12.5, and I looked at it again yesterday, and it's up to 14. If it's up,
take Georgia, every bit of it, every bit of it. Florida State can't move the ball on offense. There's no way. Like I know their defense played well versus Louisville, but there's no way they're going to be able to keep up.
If both those teams play to the best of their potential, Georgia wins that game by like 30 or 40.
Yeah. Do we have numbers on the other two playoff games?
Yeah, they're like 2 and 3, but I can't remember what they were. But
I think Michigan is favored.
I'll tell you what this is. Yeah, I think they are. Which, by the way, not a good look when that video came out and they found out that they had to play Bama.
Now, okay, I am going to come to Michigan's defense a little bit on that because if I were sitting there as a player the whole time, I'm waiting for this thing. I'm like, come on, be Florida State, man. Come on. We're going to what the fuck out of it. Be Florida State.
The quarterback thing?
Yeah, you're just like, come on, be Florida State. Be Florida State. We're going to kill them. Like, it'll be a great little bye for us, and we can go on to the next game. We can start watching film on the other opponent. We don't have to watch it on Florida State. Like, just give us the easy one. You know Florida State deserves it. Like, that's all I'm thinking leading up to it. Yeah. And then they're like, Bama. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like, what? Come on, dude. Give us freaking the easy one. Like, yes, it is Alabama. And yes, you're reacting because you're like, I don't want to play them. Nobody wants to play the better team. They want to play the worst team. You kidding me? Like, freaking Washington would have jumped up for joy if they put Florida State at 3. They would have been like, hell yeah, baby. They would have been freaking out. That's just that's a natural reaction to be like, damn it, they didn't put the worst team. They put the best team.
Yeah.
Like you understand what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I do.
I feel like it's kind of messed up of like, here, what's your first reaction? It's like, shit. Like we didn't get the easy route. I wanted the easy route.
Real competitors like myself obviously want to play the best, and you're just I guess a little chicken and want the easy route, but that's fine. It's okay.
Oh gosh.
Hey, I will say this: Tennessee, when I first checked, it was a 7.5 point favorite. But what was really, really surprising is the over/under was like 35 or 36, and that's an embarrassment to Heupel's offenses. So,
yeah, I mean that's the average. That's like average for just us. So, but listen, Iowa's had 2 shutouts. Like it could be 30-0, and like
it could be
the under.
It could be 30-0, and it could be 17-3. And listen, so last thing, I remember betting Iowa last year. So Kentucky was playing in the bowl game. It was Kentucky versus Iowa, I think, in the Music City. Iowa was catching like 10, and I teased it with like 2 other teams. So they were catching 17. And I honestly think they lost the game. And it was the most horrific thing I've ever watched. Kentucky had like a backup or a third string playing. And I'm like, Iowa, all you have to do is score a field goal. And I win this bet. And they lost the game, I think like 20-0 or 17-0. It was pathetic. But anyway, so
that's why they put that clause in the offensive coordinator's contract, and now he's got to fire his own son. Oh, it's hilarious.
See you, brother.
All right, man. See ya. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you are watching, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. We absolutely love them. If you're just listening, rate and review, download and re-download, and follow us on all those listening platforms. Also follow us on social media at Pancakes and Bacon on Twitter, at Pancakes and Bacon _RTI on Instagram. If you want to follow Reed, it's just at rbacon26 on Twitter for him. And then for myself, it is just at Kyler Kerberson on all social media. So check me out there. Again, thank you guys so much. Been a great season. Can't wait to get to the bowl game. And as always, go Vols.